It's June 26th, early in the morning, and I did a little bit of a cleanup yesterday to try to make things look less overgrown. So the primrose has stopped blooming, so I tried to remove some of it. Well, I transplanted it elsewhere in the garden, but I tried to remove it to give some more air around some of the plants, because some of the plants were being suffocated. So like right here, I removed it from around the hostas. The zinnia border is finally taking off. But you can see I removed it from underneath the hosta and where it was suffocating the Monarda, because the bee balm was not breathing and it's starting to get powdery mildew. So it needs a lot of air, so it was probably not smart to put the primrose near it. But I also removed the primrose from around my camellia. Hopefully it'll get a little more sunshine. Planted some more of the primrose behind there, but most of it is out front in in several different gardens. Yeah, I didn't water it, I forgot, so I'll do that this morning. My little white hosta isn't very white. I don't understand. We really needed the 3 days of rain, because even my ferns were starting to dry up. So things are looking better. Not perfect, but looking better. I really like the little hosta flowers. They're really pretty. Even this little fern has come back, so I guess it was just too dry. And I tried to trim some of the daffodil foliage, but really there's not much I can do in here until all the irises finish blooming. And I can dig some out and plant some bushier plants with bigger foliage. My stock flowers, I think that's what they're called, they're starting to bloom. Again, they're just tall and spindly with the foliage, so I'm thinking I'm going to put hostas all around the tree stump and move the bulbs. But the lamium is really taking off, so that's good. Hopefully it'll cover that whole back part of the garden. And then, wow, look at this. It's a green pool. Yeah, this is what happens when you have a lot of rain and neglect your pool for a few days. So this garden is really struggling. The China asters, huge disappointment, and the rain has pretty much flattened them. So I'll cut all those back. Had to cut back to most of the beard tongue because it was all dead. So now they look pretty bad. The dahlias are starting to get bigger, so hopefully they'll distract attention from the dying plants. But I really need to put something else in here that blooms behind the geranium, because the geranium is taking a while to flush out again. But in the meantime, the zinnias are starting to take off. The whatchamacallit, Rose of Sharon is about to bloom. Lots of buds, a couple are opening, so they should have some blooms on it today. I've been out here every morning picking off Japanese beetles, but not just a handful. So my treatment, I did 2 treatments of beneficial nematodes. Must be working. So the gomphrena is underwhelming. So I think if I grow these next year, I mean, they will get really big, but if I grow them next year, I'm going to put them someplace where they can do better, because the ferns pretty much overtake. The pulmonaria looks good. And these ferns are just, I don't know, I don't like them. But the hydrangeas, despite my hacking out the fungus, is doing okay. And then, of course, my swamp milkweed is glorious. The bees are just all over it from dawn to dusk. They even fell asleep on it last night. I was watching them hanging upside down, just not moving. I think they were in a comatose. Or they were comatose. So my mugwort that I dug up in Maine last year is glorious. I probably need to cut it back some more and harvest it, dry it, make sleep bundles. My hollyhocks are getting big. And my lamb's ear is finally rebounding. That is a wild geranium that Vicky Jo gave me. All of my lavenders that I grew from seed are putting on growth. They look great. The thing that was supposed to be the hardest to grow from seed seems to be one of the best things I've grown. So there are all the dahlias, slowly but surely growing. The dianthus has not rebloomed So I guess I need to come out with some liquid fertilizer. You can see little pincushion plants scattered about. That's what that bright green is. But there's some dahlias in bloom. This lamb's ear flowered, so obviously it's not the brand that or variety that I like, but the flower's not too bad. It's kind of striking when nothing else is in flower. My rose bush. So obviously I'm gonna have to move this lavender plant because it's gonna be big. I think that is a cockscomb celosia. It's doing great. The one next to it, I think, got stepped on. I thought that was a marshmallow plant back there, but I'm not sure what that is. I think it is marshmallow. My other rose bush. I found out it's a climbing rose bush, so probably not the best place for it, but it says you can trim it into a bush, so I'll do that. And I don't know if this is a plant that I grew from seed or a weed. So I'm nervous to pull it out. It's kind of a nice looking weed if it weren't for all the the holes from the bugs. But you can see there's a lavender in there, so I either need to move the weed or move the lavender. There's another marshmallow plant. And then you can see way in the back, I have celosia that was supposed to be super tall, and they're very short, so I could have put them closer to the front of the border. And then this mess right here is basically pots to keep my pole beans safe from the rabbit and the squirrels, although I think the squirrels could still get on it. So my borage, or borage as some people pronounce it, is really doing well. And I know it's not much to look at, but I think it's beautiful because of the blue flowers. I just really think it's pretty. And you're supposed to plant it near your vegetable crops, the tomatoes, to keep the bugs away. So this corner is a bit of a mess because there's my lemon balm, I have a chamomile, I have more of the celosia, just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff, and more mugwort. So this container, I don't know what was in it, what dirt or compost I used, but everything I put in here dies. It's ridiculous. There's my nasturtium, my marigolds. Oh my God, they love the warm weather. Pepper's not doing so well, but we did have all that rain and they don't like cool weather, so I'm really hoping this week when it's hot that they get some growth. I pulled one out yesterday that just looks stunted and sickly. I can't keep looking at half-dead plants. Although I'm looking at my half-dead tomatoes. I mean, this is ridiculous. It looks so messy and trashy. So I pulled out the carrots because they were not very tasty, and I actually threw them away. Cucumbers growing back there. I wasn't sure if the cucumber plants that I bought were going to do anything, so I planted a whole bunch of seeds. I pulled out one of my kales because it was bug infested, and now the bugs have gone after that one, so I don't know. I gotta figure out what to put around it, diatomaceous earth or something. I'm really, it's gotta be slug damage. I don't know. I've never seen that much damage on the kale before, so they've pretty much killed that plant. I did throw 2 tomatoes in here. I'm not sure if anything will happen with them. They're not even protected, but I had extras, so I threw them in there. They were neglected for a while in their tiny little nursery pots that I had planted them in, so not sure they'll do anything. I also removed the dill because it rained so hard that it fell over. And my sorrel, I need to dig it out and put it in the landscape because it's just too big for a raised bed. I harvested all of the red lettuce, and I left some of this curly lettuce, or whatever it's called, and it's really going gangbusters, so I need to harvest some more of it. Then 2 tomato plants that the squirrels got, I'm trying to bring back from the dead. Potted another tomato in here that seems to be doing pretty good. You can't see it through the chicken wire. There's part of the dill that I planted, but I don't think it's gonna take. I don't think it liked being pulled up. And there's the other part of the dill, but if it drops its seeds here, that'll be fine because I'd like it to reseed. So chamomile and the calendula in this bed are doing well. Swiss chard, I can come harvest some more of it. It's funny because it's a rainbow Swiss chard, but only the green stalks grow, none of the red ones or I think it's like an orange, so too bad. Another tomato I threw in there. All of these tomatoes were just ones that were neglected because they were extras, so when the squirrels got my other ones, I threw these in the garden. Green beans are doing well. I need to come harvest them this morning. My rhubarb is glorious. I really need to pick one of those big leaves and make my bird bath mold from it. And then the wildflower garden was pretty much flattened with all the rain, but it's starting to spring back. You can see the white Orlea is really doing well. And I have some, I forget what kind of mallow plants, the white ones and the pink ones. Not marshmallow, but a different kind of mallow plant. And then my yarrow is doing really well all throughout there, and my basil. And then my larkspur, you can see back there, is doing really well after I cut some flowers off of it. And then, let me show you. I didn't realize I had another feverfew plant, so I guess there's feverfew all along the front in between the bachelor buttons. I'm not sure they're getting enough sun, but they're perennials, so I'm just so excited because I didn't realize that. I thought I only had one plant, so that's awesome. But you can see the larkspur is really pretty. I can't wait to put that in the landscape next year. And then the California poppies really struggled because it was too dry and I didn't water. I overwatered some areas and underwatered others. But you can see the cosmos all back there. I'm not sure if they're getting enough sun. I planted some more sunflowers along the fence line, but something must be getting, I mean, there are some seedlings, but something must be getting them. So there should be more. And then behind the bachelor buttons are all the zinnias. Again, I'm not sure it gets enough sun. And then the bunny tail grass is starting to bloom back there. Let me see if I don't know if I can get a good picture of it. Hold on. The bunny tail is so pretty because of the little soft seed head. See, you can see that. It's so cute, and it'll be covered in those. I'll use those for flower arrangements. I'm trying to zoom in and out slowly. So anyways, this garden is not what I envisioned. It's kind of sparse, but live and learn. I'll do it differently next year, just put it in various places in the landscape. But you can see I have like a little baby larkspur right there. I guess it dropped its seed. And I have a Cosmo. You can see some California poppies. But it's just, the rain really pushed everything over. Okay. Sorry about that. Should have put it on pause. So I did plant and stir some seeds all along the front of this border to sort of cascade over the little ledge, so that'll look pretty. Potatoes. I harvested potatoes out of one of the grow bags, or I should say the second grow bag, and then this is the third. So when this dies, I'll harvest that one. I also had some snapdragons. You can see that purplish flower bud. So the snapdragons are getting ready to bloom. And I need to do something with this shade garden. It's not working for me. But you can see back in the corner is where I planted all that evening primrose, because I don't care if it overtakes that area. But I need to do something with this fall. This is not working for me. And it's not all that shady. And obviously I need to do something with this corner. So I'll put some shade plants and some evergreens in front of this area. So I'm not gonna, let me see if I can get back there to show you the other grasses that I put back here, because I had no room for them anywhere else. But they really should have been in the landscape because they are gorgeous. Oh my gosh. And nobody can see them back here behind the azaleas. And then other plants that were back here are the Nigella, but you really can't see them, and they are not very pretty. I don't know if it's the variety I bought or why. They're just kind of ugly. They're supposed to be blue and vibrant. Okay. So the calendula is really doing well. I need to remember, maybe don't use it as a border. So last year these plants were so tiny, the ones I bought from the nursery. So growing from seed is definitely the way to do it, but they're bigger than I anticipated. So I need to put them in their own little section next year and not as a border plant. Or if I put them as a border plant, put them a little further back. So you can see my dahlia, it's so tiny. I have a dahlia, a couple of dahlias back there that are getting big. My cosmos around the bird bath, huge. I didn't anticipate those being so big. So it fills in that bare spot pretty well. The salvia, I also did not anticipate it being this tall. It is way taller than it said on the seed packet. And I already said this before, but this plant back there gets 2 feet wide, and I guess I must have thought 2 feet tall, so I put it back there, but it really should have been at the front of the border. That's my spilanthes that I harvest the little flower heads. You use it for toothaches because it's numbing. Gosh, this daisy is so huge. I need to move that entire plant next year, and it is like, I don't know, 10 times the size it was last year. I think it was in a pot. These Shasta daisies are in the right spot. They're just a smaller variety. And then you can see my campanula, little bellflowers. They're cute right here. They have kind of a lavender tinge to them from the veining, but it's ever so subtle, so it's kind of a white flower. I love them, but you don't really see them. Some more cosmos, and then hopefully my pincushions called Black Knight will flower any day now. These are the tall pincushions. So again, didn't realize how tall they'd be because I thought they'd be like this pincushion, short. Maybe wouldn't have put them at the front of the border because look how tall they are. Oh my gosh. Live and learn. I think they're an annual, so next year I'll just move them. Plant them somewhere else. So the lavender is pretty much on its way out. So I did a little trimming yesterday on this plant. But there's a few flowers that the bees are still going after. But I want to shear them back and hopefully I'll get another flush later this summer. So yarrow back there probably needs to move next year. It just doesn't get enough sun, so it gets really leggy. And I have dahlias. I have all sorts of plants in here. I don't know what the heck I planted. Pretty sure that is a weed underneath the baptisia. And then my St. John's wort is got yellow buds on it. It's kind of a mess right there in the middle, which is where the bird bath used to be. So I really need to do things differently next year, and I think what I'll do is have a path that goes right into the middle. And then I'll have some taller things in the middle and then shorter as you move towards the border. You can see, this is my little staging area that I did not clean up yesterday. I cut down the mullein plant and I had to stake the Rose of Sharon tree that I grew from a tiny little volunteer seedling last year. Actually, there's 2 of them in there. But I think the next time I go to the plant nursery, I'm going to buy a perennial hibiscus, a hardy hibiscus like Jessica has. And I think that's what I'm going to plant here so that it gets really big and hides this mess of the pool equipment. My love in a puff. No puffs yet, but there are flowers, so hopefully there'll be puffs on it eventually towards the end of summer. And I don't know what bulbs I planted in here, but that's a strappy mess and there's nothing. I don't know, what a waste of time. It's a Shasta daisy I grew from seed next to the skullcap. Skullcap is blooming again. So there should be daisies that grow in here, in between the Agastache. And this catnip probably doesn't belong here, but I'm gonna leave it. And then I'm not sure I'm gonna keep this rose bush because I just don't like the disease it gets or the bugs that get it. And I might put a hardy hibiscus here too. And then this Russian sage, it is just a mess. It doesn't look good. I don't know why the landscaper put it here. It doesn't have the tall spikes. They just lay over. They're almost too tall. So I'm gonna pull this out. It's almost like everything the landscaper put in my yard I'm unhappy with. I'm gonna pull that out and plant something else. Maybe maybe 2 hardy hibiscus, or maybe just put the hibiscus there and leave the rose. We'll see. And if you didn't get enough of a view of the nasty pool, there it is. So that's it for my garden tour. Now I need to get to work. Have a great day.